This morning, reaction growing after the Trump administration released thousands of pages about the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Joining us now, someone who has been going through the files, Jefferson Morley, editor of the JFK Facts and Substack and vice president of the Mary Ferrell Foundation. Jefferson, thanks so much for being with us, Jefferson. What are your takeaways so far? There's a lot of this, and a lot of this is not really organized.
Yeah, so we spent last night going through the 2,000 or so documents, and I got to tell you, Lincoln, there's a sensational story here that people need to know. This is not a nothing burger, as people will tell you. There's an amazingly interesting and pregnant story in these JFK files. Let me explain. Late last night, we got the unredacted testimony of CIA counterintelligence chief James Angleton, who testified behind closed doors to Senate investigators in 1975. Up till yesterday, about 40 pages of the 113-page transcript were redacted. All of those redactions have come off, and we see a new window into the CIA's pre-assassination surveillance of Lee Harvey Oswald. One document, FBI document released yesterday, indicates that Angleton recruited Lee Harvey Oswald as a 20-year-old Marine as a contact or a source for the CIA in 1959. Other documents released in recent years show that Angleton kept Oswald under surveillance, monitoring his politics, his personal life, his foreign travels, his contacts for the next 4 years, from November 1959 to November 1963. By November 1963, we now know, thanks to these documents, Angleton had a 180-page file on Oswald on his desk a week before Kennedy went to Dallas. So what this story raises is the question, was the CIA incredibly, atrociously incompetent when it came to Lee Harvey Oswald? Or was Angleton actually running an operation involving Oswald? We don't have the answer to that question because there's still some relevant records to come out. For example, one file of another CIA officer who was involved in the pre-assassination surveillance of Oswald is still kept secret. So this is a great first start. There's an incredible story here, but we need to do more research.
Jefferson, and talk to us, if you would, a little bit more about who Angleton was. And then is there anywhere any document or information? I was listening last night to some of the audio tapes that the CIA carried out of the Cuban embassy in Mexico City when they used Oswald supposedly being there or not. Right. But talk to us about Angleton. And at the time, you know, President Kennedy was so involved in what was going on in Vietnam, others, totally in opposition to what the United States military wanted, and also sending that reporter to Cuba to speak with Fidel Castro, Jean Daniel. Is there any possibility of getting this stuff anywhere?
You know, it is coming out, and we need to spend more time with this. But what we see in the latest releases is this pattern of malfeasance on the part of the CIA. You talk about Kennedy's interest in Cuba. You know, one of the important documents that surfaced yesterday is about the origins of Kennedy's mistrust of the CIA, which started in 1961 and continued through 1963. And we got a memo yesterday about Kennedy's plans to reorganize the CIA. And a lot of that memo had been redacted before. We now understand why Kennedy mistrusted the CIA, and a mistrust that, to be sure, was returned by CIA officers who did not like his liberal policies.
Jefferson, you and I could talk a lot about, I hope we can continue our conversation going forward. I very much appreciate it.
There's more to come, Lincoln.